Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So, exciting part for today is that we actually hit the halfway mark, which is this spread right here in my sketchbook. So I wanted to show you guys basically the process of it, but I run into a little bit of an issue, and I'm going to be showing you guys. So I decided that I wouldn't scrap this footage because it is the halfway point, and you can see my kind of like my preliminary sketches on the little like sticky notes. And here's the sketching tools that I use. So the typical ones I use: a big mechanical pencil and the Pilot Color ENO in the color pink or red to do kind of like the initial sketch. So because I'm going to be using gouache for the first session, yes, that's correct, I decided to squish in 2 time lapses together because I didn't really like this session at all. So yeah, let me explain a little bit. So during this portion, I already thought I was gonna like this, but I did not go in with a lot of planning. So during the watercoloring phase, which I'm using to kind of prep the surface a little bit and kind of get the colors established before I actually paint with gouache, I don't know, I liked what it looked like. I also really liked the sketch initially, and I'm kind of bummed that it takes a very different direction and I don't really like it, which, you know, is okay. And usually I feel like other artists recommend this too, is that you should try to take your time to finish your drawing or your art piece, like a lot more of the time, rather than abandoning the piece. But there are times where I feel like it's the situation where it's like the saying where you're polishing a turd. Like if you keep on polishing the turd, it doesn't get prettier, it doesn't get better, it just becomes more and more of a mess. It doesn't really change the status of what it is, it's still a turd. And that's what I kind of felt with this piece. Even though I knew, like, you know, during the painting phase, usually there's an ugly phase, but you have to kind of push through. But in the back of my head, I knew I didn't do enough prep work for what I wanted the atmosphere to be like. And I feel like that's going to reflect also in the second piece. And I'll talk about the differences probably near the end and what my expectations were in the second half. Or not even a half, please bear with me. This one, even though it's going to take kind of more of an uglier turn for the most part, just bear with me for the next like 6 to 7 minutes before we get into the other portion. So in terms of what I don't like about this piece and what I struggled with, so I became very timid with the gouache for some reason. So I was making very hasty painting marks, and I was diluting the paint a lot to the point where it just became very watery. And I really do like how opaque gouache is and kind of how much I can get a flat finish on certain things and kind of treat it more like flat colors side by side and making things a little bit more painterly in that sense. But because I was being very timid, I was layering a lot of like watery layers, and then when I decided to kind of bring it up to be more opaque, I was fumbling with the colors, and I was either trying to make things too dark or things were too light, and I was trying to color match a lot. A lot of things became messy, and then I started to lift things, and then I don't know, things kind of went out of hand a little bit. Actually, I forgot about this. I should have talked about what I'm drawing or why I'm drawing this. So in the beginning, I actually showed you the back and the front of the inside covers of my sketchbook, and I kind of like to theme my sketchbook at least a little bit in terms of what's on the front inside cover and the back inside cover. I like to match them to be kind of like either a welcome or a hello page, and then the back side can be a goodbye, or like it's usually a goodbye page for you, like for the most part. But because this is the halfway spread, I thought it'd be cute to do kind of like this lighting where the character, in this case I was basing it off of Wonwoo, and in the end I decided that I wanted it to be Wonwoo anyways. And please ignore that I forget his ring. I don't put in the ring until like the very end, so apologies about that. But I thought it'd be cool, like I wanted him to be backlit from a giant window. Obviously I love adding foliage and leaves, and that kind of helps tie in the front cover a little bit, or like the front inside cover. And I wanted to have kind of more of a muted tone and subtle shadow going across, which you can see on the left side. I have that, but I wanted to also write halfway very faintly, like kind of in like more of cursive writing, very delicate in that area. But you'll see I give up and I do it very like haphazardly, and it looks very ugly. Even like at this state, I don't really like it. I think the colors initially worked out well, but gradually it no longer really looked like he was being backlit. I lost kind of like my lighting source on his face and on the backside of his hair and stuff, and I shifted his glasses up even though he's looking down, and his glasses were supposed to be lower on his face. His mouth is crooked. There's like a lot of things wrong. His neck is very splotchy. The only thing I liked, actually, no, I don't even think so. The color palette was okay to a certain point. I do think that it did get a little bit muddy in some areas, which kind of bummed me. I did have a reference for the color palette, which was, I was trying to reference it, but I don't think I did a very good job because I was getting frustrated with working on just Wonwoo in general. So you can see I'm trying to bring back the highlights. So I lightened up his face on one side. I added more highlights into his hair to make sure it looks a little bit more correct. But the lighting doesn't make sense anyways, so I kind of got frustrated and thought that maybe I could just try to fix up the window a little bit. And I don't know. In the end, I don't really like it, so we're gonna do something different today instead of just dealing with it. Because I feel like if I kept on just painting it, it would have just got worse and worse, because I think my headspace was not good and I would have probably disliked whatever I painted no matter what. So either take a step back would probably be a good idea, you know, put some time and distance away from your piece and yourself, and, you know, let that time allow you to have a little bit of a clearer mind of what you want to do with the piece a little bit later, or after somewhat what I would consider finishing the piece and kind of in a very sloppy way, just finishing it so that I could be over with it and just close the sketchbook and be done with it. I decided that I wanted a little bit of a redemption. Also, I thought it was kind of stupid that these little white areas with my binder clips, I forgot to cover. And yeah, this is where we are for the second half. So this is literally, I think, 3 hours after I did this piece, like the gouache painting. And I kind of flipped to a few pages afterwards. I already had a few sketches before I doing the halfway page, and I flipped to a page where I could just do a full spread again so we could tackle this piece. I re-sketched it out. I had to go back into my footage to actually look at what my sketch used to look like, because referencing the painting that I've done, I already warped his face quite a bit, which I disliked. So I went back into the video footage, which is another reason why I like recording videos for YouTube just in general, because like a part of it is me showing process to other people, but part of it is kind of feels like an archive for myself if I ever feel lost and confused about how I did a certain method or anything like that. Even like before tackling this piece, I actually had to go back to the ASMR video where I was coloring kave with alcohol markers, because I wanted to know that if my sketch was gonna dissolve with the alcohol markers, because it is water soluble. But I played it a little bit safe and decided to I decided to kind of do another sketch on top with the Pirsmacolor Col-Eraser, just in case if the palette Color ENO does dissolve with the alcohol markers. By the way, we're using alcohol markers. I am using the Ohuhu markers, and I thought it'd be an easier way for me to achieve the look I wanted. The other way I could have done is probably just watercolor if I was patient enough to let the page settle every so often before I built up color. But I didn't really want to take that chance. I think me handling the gouache earlier that day was probably a little bit more frustrating. I think by the time you guys see this video, it's gonna be a couple of weeks, so hopefully I will get through a few more spreads in the sketchbook, because it's been a couple of months starting this sketchbook and I'm only halfway, and this sketchbook does not have a lot of pages, to be honest, compared to like the notebooks I've been using previously. I think the notebooks have doubled the amount, so I'm working at a snail's pace, or pace, not paste, I can't speak. regarding the sketchbook, which isn't a bad thing. It's just like I do want to build up a sketchbook habit, which I've been saying for like the last year or two, and I just haven't been doing it. So yeah, hopefully I'll get back into an okay routine. I think it's also because I'm in a mindset still of wanting things to look correct, which I feel like that Wonwoo piece that I did with the gouache is gonna help me break out of it, because I'm gonna let things be ugly in the sketchbook and just leave them ugly. I don't have to cover them up or anything. And if I can, I'll do something like this again and do like a redemption piece. So for the markers, I did like color swatches prior, and I was actually referencing an old digital piece. It's not that old, but I've done a video on it too, and it's the one of Ike Eveland where he's backlit with the window behind him, because I was trying to match the skin tone. Because in my watercoloring kind of little session where I did before just adding the gouache, I was trying to determine how kind of muted his skin tone would be, and same with the shirt, because I needed to see what it would look like if it was being backlit, because it won't be like very bright, it wouldn't be very like saturated in color, because it will be in shadow, because I wanted the character to be backlit. So I was trying to reference it as much as I can, or as I could, and to be honest, I did like it in the earlier stages. You're gonna see that I didn't make it dark enough, which comes with me being a little bit inexperienced with using alcohol markers, I think. I feel like for painting, I could just keep layering with no fear of making things too light in a sense, because the thing that I was struggling with this one is that even though I did the background first, which I highly recommend doing if you want to make sure your character looks like it's embedded into the environment, because you'll be taking in consideration of the environment's lighting and everything like that, so it looks like the character's more naturally placed. I ended up making everything too light, so it doesn't read as kind of like that moodier, a little bit more backlit scene. But for the most part, I think I did spend most of my time doing the background. So I spent a painstakingly long time doing the leaves in the window, and I went from kind of a super pale yellow, I think it's like a celery color, I don't remember what's the names of it, but it's like a really light yellow. I went to another kind of like yellowy green, into a bunch of different greens, and then ending up with a, I think it's almost a dark blue at some point, because the green that I have chosen was not dark enough for what I wanted, and I don't know. I feel like I've always tried to do this kind of atmosphere or concept with the foliage and stuff a lot with gouache, and I've never successfully done it. And I think I just need to play around with the consistency, because I don't know if I need to remix my paints again so that they're a little bit more malleable and very soft and a little bit more like creamy. Right now they're in like a very hard state, and I sprayed them with water, and then usually the top layer or two kind of, you know, dissolves a little bit and softens, so it's easy for me to pick up. But I feel like maybe I'm not layering it correctly because I'm not using it super opaque and very kind of like solid. I'm making things like very pasty and very liquidy, which makes everything look a little bit streaky and transparent. So I would like to practice that maybe on like a different surface, and I can just do like a bunch of studies rather than doing them in my sketchbook, because I feel like there is too much pressure for me when I'm doing it in my sketchbook. So hopefully I'll kind of get out of that kind of gouache funk a little bit. So as you can see, I'm doing Wonwoo skin tone here, or working on the skin areas first. So I'm trying to make sure it's a little bit on the duller side, and I'm trying to build up the shadows slowly. And another thing I was not used to, or I kind of forgot, I guess, is that when you place down the markers, they kind of appear a lot darker, but once they dry, they become a lot lighter. So when I put down the gray for his collar of his white dress shirt, I got scared because I thought it looked too dark. So now you can see that I went in with another yellow, light yellow color for the base instead of that gray, which was a bad choice. I should have stuck with the gray so I could deepen the shadows, and then maybe I would have realized that his skin tone's still too pale and a little bit not cool enough for the type of shadow that I would have liked. And I think I only realized that it wasn't dark enough was that, or like it didn't appear that he's in shadow as much as I would have liked, because it's too soft looking. So for me to have a stronger light behind him, it would have been better for me to make the shadow a lot darker. And I didn't realize until I did the line work, because my line work kind of makes the colors in a sense like pop, but also the line work really is kind of like the darkest thing on the page. So he definitely looked a little bit too pale for what I wanted. Even looking at it right now, he's looking a little bit too pale for the kind of lighting that I wanted, including his shirt. I don't remember if the book is too light. I should just double check. Yeah, even the book I think is too light. So that's like one thing, is that was kind of like my gripe with this piece. But for the most part, I would consider it like a redemption of the, at least like the gouache one that I did. And it was definitely more up my alley in terms of what I wanted for the atmosphere to be. It did become a little bit more warmer and, I don't know, brighter in a sense. I think it looks really cute, but I think I wanted a little bit more of a calm atmosphere, but almost like early morning feeling, rather than this where it feels like it's more like sun is setting, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if that's how this atmosphere reads, but I feel like that's what's the difference between the two color palettes that I had. The gouache one has a little bit of a different, even more like late afternoon. For the gouache one might have worked a little bit better, because it has a little bit more of cooler colors that are a little bit darker as well. These ones are a little bit more vibrant and a lot more warmer. And I don't know if it's just like my bias towards warmer palettes when I work in like a little bit more of softer range of colors. That's kind of like the preference I have. So I don't know, maybe more planning, definitely, I guess, for me. I don't know. I feel like if I really wanted to take it one step further in terms of planning, I would just do a digital mock-up instead of just winging it. I think that would have been the best choice in terms of working with the markers for me, when I'm doing kind of like this kind of a full piece, because planning out the colors would help quite a bit. And I did do that for like the watercolor piece that I did for Ike Eveland, where he's standing next to, is it a window in that one too? Yeah, window with leaves, and there's like a bookshelf, and yeah, even that one is, he's kind of backlit, but I don't think I made it dark enough once again, because I get really timid. I get really timid when doing like giant shadow with traditional medium, because digital, like you can play around with the colors quite a bit. And if you make things too dark, you could always use like screen layers or addition layers and overlays to like lighten everything up. Or if things too light, and you can use multiply, overlay, and some other layers to darken things again. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe I was too scared of making it dark to the point where it's not redeemable. Because I feel like the table, or whatever that kind of bottom portion behind Wonwoo and kind of below the window, I think I made that dark enough, but everything is still too light. But yeah, here are the fine liners, by the way. I forgot to actually, I'll make sure to put cards maybe on the top. So these are the Magicfly dual tips. You guys seen me use these quite a bit whenever I work with color and traditional medium and I need to do line work and I'm not painting with a brush. So usually like pencil crayon, sometimes I've used this for some cases. A lot of the times when I'm using water-based markers, I'm also using these markers for line work and coloring. And then when I'm using any kind of alcohol markers, I like to do the line work at the end, because I never have a good time doing line work prior to using the markers. So I rather avoid smudging, and I like to do the line work after because I can avoid that. But also it allows me to kind of match the colors a little bit. And this is where I figured out that he is still too pale, his shirt's too pale, the book's too pale. It doesn't read as if they're in like a deep shadow. There's like only a hint of like he's being backlit a little bit. His glasses are crooked, so don't point that out, please. But I think that's about it. I actually do think this piece is a lot better than the other one, just a little bit more thought out as well, and being a little bit careful about the colors and yeah, the colors, but not exactly the contrast, I guess. But I don't know. The placement and everything was just better executed in my opinion. Flowers look a little bit prettier. but definitely took them more of a warmer route. I didn't use reference for the flowers. I just drew what I remember what peonies look like because I draw them so often. So I just drew random peonies on the bottom that look super huge because they're like the size of Wonwoo's head at this point. But yeah, I tried my best to match the line work color as much as I could. So dark brown and black for the windowsill. I used a dark or medium gray for the shirt. I used a dark brown and a black for his hair. I used a dark green for his eyes, and then I used kind of a warm brown or a reddish brown, kind of burgundy-ish color for the skin. And then I did a little bit of outline on the leaves because I forgot to render them and I didn't really care. I put away a lot of my markers already at this point, so I didn't want to draw them back out. But yeah, I think that's about it. Matching colors, doing the line work, keeping things pretty soft. And I actually think, yeah, this one I would call a redemption. I don't know. I was tempted to just show this one as like the halfway point, but it would be false to label this as half. It's like 2 or 3 spreads off of half. So yeah, here's my redemption. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me struggle on the first one and redeeming myself kind of in the second one. Also me putting back the ring. I'll do it for the other one too, because technically this is supposed to be Wonwoo. I was like referencing is it the Ataka album? Or was it just a random photo shoot? He has like a really cute outfit where he's wearing like white shirt, I think white pants or shorts, and then a white dress shirt. He looks very, very soft and very cute. I really like that one. So that's what I was trying to reference. I added glasses and kept his hair pretty much just down fully, very simple. So yeah, you can see the difference. Definitely color shift along with just, you know, Wonwoo looks extremely different. So yeah, struggled with gouache quite a bit and working at a tiny scale, also putting that ring in. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video and watching me struggle to make a piece work and just needing to move on. So yeah, I like this one a lot more. Wish it was higher contrast though, but hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Like I said, for like the 3rd time. Also, I wanted to show you guys the texture of the back. But that's about it. I will leave you guys with that, and I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!